Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us. My name is Lauren Lovett, and as the senior class president, it is my honor to welcome our last lecture speaker. Kevin Guskiewicz is an academic leader, neuroscientist, and concussion researcher. He started his academic career here in 1995. He has a long list of accolades and accomplishments, including influencing concussion guidelines in the NFL and NCAA. He received the prestigious MacArthur Fellowship, was named a game changer by Time magazine, and was inducted into the NADA's Hall of Fame. But besides all of the amazing work he's done in academics, we all know him as Chancellor Guskiewicz. We started here in 2020. He was just appointed to the role the year prior. Throughout our time here, we always thought we would end the way we started, with him at commencement sending us off. Sadly for us, he had the great opportunity at Michigan State University, where he now serves as their 22nd president. But we couldn't end this year without having him here one last time to give us some encouraging words. So please join me in welcoming our 2024 last lecture speaker, Dr. Kevin Guskiewicz.
Thank you, Lauren, and good evening. It's a great day to be at Tar Heel, as I like to say, and sun's a little bright here. I think it'll get a little better, but if I need to, I got my shades. But it is absolutely awesome to be back here on campus, and was thrilled back in February when Lauren reached out and invited me to be your speaker for the last lecture, and it's an honor to be here to address the senior class, the class of 2024. How about a round of applause for the class of 2024? Now less than 2 weeks from graduation, from your graduation, I was especially pleased to be here as you prepare to end one chapter in your life's journey, because as Lauren has just said, we started that journey together 4 years ago, and there will be many more chapters in your life's journey, but so grateful that Amy and I were here for this chapter of your journey. It seems like just yesterday that your parents were moving you into the residence halls here on campus, and I know that many people would like to forget that dreadful fall of 2020, but I'm going to ask you to do just the opposite. And I'm going to ask you to remember it. Many of you arrived after a very difficult end to your senior year in high school. It was cut short due to the pandemic. Many of you didn't have a senior prom. Many of you didn't have a high school graduation. Most of you probably didn't have a high school senior week, but I heard from many of you, you created your own and made it your own. And but you came to Chapel Hill hopeful of a fresh start, but yet another 4 to 5 months ensued of what was just a very difficult and challenging time. And as a result, you may have started your college career in the basement of your parents' home. You may not have gotten to attend a basketball game or football game. I don't think that you probably attended late night. And you may not have had the chance to have a late night conversation at the Union or at the library with one of your close friends. But you made up for it, and you persevered. You got creative and found ways to meet new friends. You found ways to connect to our world-class faculty here at Carolina. You still found ways to study abroad. You adapted. And by my count, you got to rush Franklin Street 6 times. Okay, maybe 5 times. For those of you that were in New Orleans, you rushed Bourbon Street for that 6th time. And how much fun was that? Because of how you learned to adapt and persevere, I'm confident that at some point in the next 5 years, 15 years, 25 years down the road, you're going to look back at your college experience and realize how much better prepared you are because you had to adapt to the challenges that you were faced with. And you're going to say to yourself, I've got this. I can reach my destination and achieve my goals. I'm built for this. And there will be many more challenges ahead. And I think you look back to that challenging time in the fall, and even this fall of 2020, spring of 2021, it was not easy, but you adapted. But let's take it one step at a time. It's your senior week here at Carolina, and you are a very special group of seniors and are about to graduate from one of the greatest public universities in the world. And if you don't believe me, you're about to realize the truth in this. As you walk away from campus, passing these incredible landmarks that are all over the campus. Amy and I were back taking the dogs for a walk around campus just yesterday, and it's an amazing place. I don't need to tell you that, and it's always going to be here for you. Besides feeling incredibly honored to speak before you this evening, your invitation did a great thing for me. It allowed me the opportunity to reflect back on my own Carolina experience, a place that I fell in love with for the first time in February of 1995, when I was invited to come down for a job interview as an assistant professor in the Department of Exercise and Sports Science. And I remember parking up on Stadium Drive and walking past the Bell Tower. I was about at least 35, 45 minutes early. Bill Prentice, I'm always early, as you know, but I showed up about 40 minutes early for my interview, and took the opportunity to walk around campus and walk past up Polk Place, past the South Building, down onto McCorkle, and back up around, a loop around the old well, the Bell Tower, and back to Fetzer Hall, where I had my interview. And I'll never forget that. It was the first time I had stepped foot on this campus, and I hope that you'll reflect over the next few weeks on that first opportunity you had to experience this magical place that you've now spent at least 4 years here enjoying. And so I think we probably share something in common. We share a lot in common, but Carolina was a game changer for me, and I will forever be indebted. And it gave me the freedom and the support to study a topic that very few other universities were willing to take on at that time, sport-related concussion. And today, Carolina is one of the nation's leaders in this area of sport-related concussion, and it gave me the opportunity to see myself as a researcher willing to take some risks, a university that was willing to take a risk on me in that work, but it also allowed me an opportunity to explore opportunities in leadership, to explore something I never imagined possible when I arrived in '95, and that is that I'd spent 11 years in offices in the South Building and 5, most of the last 5, as your chancellor, something I will forever cherish. So Carolina has likely already been a game changer for you too, and that's something we share in common. But something tells me that the credibility that your degree carries will be the true game changer for you. But you still have much work ahead, and your degree from Carolina is only the foundation. To have earned a degree from a university that for 20 consecutive years has been ranked as the number one best value in American public higher education is really special. Because of its stellar academics, its outstanding graduation rates, its affordability, and financial aid packages, and I would add, because of what you are about to do as an alumnus. You are about to accept a responsibility, and that's something that's really important, and I hope you'll take away from tonight. You have a responsibility to add continued credibility to what it means to hold a degree from this incredible university. You will carry that responsibility for much longer than the few years that you've been here. But I'd like to talk about a few other game changers for me that came before that first trip down to Chapel Hill in February of 1995. And that's helped to form some of the guiding principles that I've followed and informs the advice that I've provided to many of my students over the past 28 years and that I want to share with you this evening. So I grew up in western Pennsylvania, Latrobe, Pennsylvania, right outside of Pittsburgh, and went off to Westchester University in 1985 to earn a degree in athletic training and in journalism, and then off to the University of Pittsburgh 4 years later to earn my master's in exercise physiology and sports medicine. And it was during that time, while I was at the University of Pittsburgh, that I I had the great fortune of holding an assistantship for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and having grown up outside of Pittsburgh as a huge Pittsburgh Steelers fan, this was an incredible opportunity for me. But what I saw there was really eye-opening, and I remember, you have to remember now, this was in 1990. Even at the level of the NFL and the NCAA, concussion diagnosis was rather primitive and subjective, based on a player's accounts of their symptoms. Do you have a headache? Do you have blurred vision? Are you feeling dizzy? And the challenge there was that we just didn't know any better at that time. Concussions were believed to be an invisible injury, and the definition of concussion was pretty much limited to being whether or not you had been knocked unconscious or not. And there were no objective tools, and I knew that we could do better. So I was finishing a master's degree, and a faculty mentor advised me that it would never be any easier than it was at that point in time to continue my education, to go on to get a doctorate degree rather than to take a job immediately out after my master's degree. And when he told me that, I had been a student my entire life, but yet it was incredible advice. I was weighing 3 job offers already, one of which was to actually stay on the medical staff with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And what an incredible opportunity that could have been to remain back home in Western Pennsylvania. But in the end, I made the tougher decision to go to the University of Virginia, and a decision that I realized every day was probably the best career decision of my life. I earned my PhD in sports medicine at UVA and was able to launch my career as a faculty member, an athletic trainer, a concussion researcher, and then ultimately an academic leader. I made some sacrifices, and as I already said, I didn't settle on the easy career path. So as the old adage goes, there are few certainties in life, but I have an exception to the rule. And when you walk out of Kenan Stadium in about 2 weeks from now, with your Carolina degree in hand, you are entering a world that is counting on you and counting on your integrity. And I want you to think about that word, integrity. I hope that you'll reflect on that, and there is nothing more important to me than integrity. And sadly, there aren't enough people checking that at the door these days. A good friend of mine told me advice that he got from his father was do what the boss says unless the answer is yes to any of these 3 questions. Is it illegal? Is it immoral? Or is it unethical? And I think that's really good advice, and that's the first piece of advice that I want to give you this evening. And in staying true to the last lecture that Randy Pausch from Carnegie Mellon, and if you know the story, in 2007 was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and decided to give what he knew would be his last lecture to his students. Delivered an incredible lecture. You can get online and watch it. Some of you probably already have, and then published the book, The Last Lecture. And so in staying true to that, I'm going to share some advice from my own experiences. First, Carolina is a place where you've been armed with skills to advocate for yourself, and you have to always be finding ways to advocate for yourself. You can do this because of the curriculum that you've just experienced over these past 4 years, founded by worldly liberal arts approaches, complemented by the day-to-day interactions with some of the world's greatest scholars and researchers, addressing some of the world's greatest challenges. If you've been paying attention in those classes, I would argue that you could probably win just about any argument on just about any topic using sophisticated methodologies and hypothesis-driven approaches that you've been taught in your courses. Knowing how to advocate for yourself is so important, and I often preach this point to my students as well as my own kids. Advocate for yourself, but do it tactfully and methodically, without boasting or self-promoting. Learn how to effectively build a case for yourself and your mission, and you will capture the attention of people who can take you places. Some of you probably know Nehemiah Stewart. Nehemiah Stewart was an undergraduate student here, graduated 3 years ago. He's now a third-year MD PhD student here at UNC. and is incredible. He was the convocation speaker for our first-year class this past August. Gave some incredible advice, and you can Google his lecture for convocation. But he's a perfect example of this. Nehemiah advocated very early on when he was a first-year student at Carolina, coming down from Washington, D.C., and trying to get home for Thanksgiving break, had no way to get home. And he was trying to find a way to get a ride back for Thanksgiving and realized there were a lot of other students who were in the same situation. So as a result, he's very entrepreneurial. He started a ride app that is now widely used for students that don't live locally to find ways to get home for breaks and vacations, to get back to family. He later developed Level the Playing Field, which many of you are aware of, and it's been an incredible resource for our underrepresented students, first-generation college students interested in STEM. Nehemiah is a perfect example of somebody who believed in advocating for the things that society needs, for the local community needs, and I know that there are many more Nehemiah Stewarts out there among you. So advocating is really important. Second point, deferred gratification, or paying the price now to reap the reward later. I've shared this advice with my own students over the past 28 years, and deferred gratification applies to many aspects of life, but I can think of no better example than the benefit of pursuing your degree or degrees sooner than later. And I've already shared my own experience with you about how I made that decision back in 1992 to go and pursue a PhD when I already had 3 job offers in hand, but I took the more difficult path. Education is an investment in yourself, and your upcoming graduation is proof that you have earned a return on your investment. And you will all walk out of here with letters after your name, and you should celebrate that. Your education will never depreciate in the same way that a car does or a computer does or many other things that you can think about. But I just want to continue to emphasize this, that you are considering, if you're considering working toward an advanced degree, try to do it sooner rather than later. Deferred gratification certainly paid off for me, and I know that it can for you too. So once you have those letters after your name, you will keep them forever. The next set of letters, it might be an MS, a PhD, an MBA, an MD, a JD, or any other advanced degree. They will take you far. Third point, I'd like to say a few words about this important principle, and that is surrounding yourself with good people, which has been a key to my success and will be important for most of you. Regardless of the endeavor, make sure that you are surrounded with people whose values match your values, people who you trust, people who trust you, and people who will often see things through a different lens, perhaps because of their different lived experience. It's going to be really important for you. As a university professor, a researcher, an administrator, the biggest challenges that I think I have faced have been with distrust of individuals in the same room who don't trust one another. And I often find myself wondering how different the situation would be if people involved simply trusted one another. So take the time to get to know people before you sign on to anything that will be investing your personal time, energy, or finances. I'm not suggesting to necessarily surround yourself with people who think exactly like you do. As I've said, oftentimes the best people are going to be those who can make you think about or help you think about something through a different lens. Good people are those you trust and who will challenge you to be the best person that you can be. So, in bringing these 3 important points together, along with what I already talked about, integrity, which was probably the first point I tried to make, deferred gratification, surrounding yourself with good people, and advocating for yourself. I want to share a short personal story. So in 2005 and 2007, I published, along with a group of 5 colleagues, 2 important research papers that really defined my career as a neuroscientist. The findings of our research outlined in these 2 papers appeared to be incriminating toward arguably one of the most popular and profitable industries in America, professional football. Yes, the NFL. Our 4-year study identified a high probability that developing later life cognitive impairment and depression was likely once a player had sustained 3 or more concussions in their NFL playing career. It was the last thing that the NFL wanted to hear at that point, and the league's own medical committee immediately began trying to dismiss our findings and trying to hire other physicians and scientists to quote-unquote put out the fire. The NFL was in damage control mode. Its committee members began pointing fingers at our research and even trying to initiate its own study, and many said this is industry-funded research at its best. Some members of the league's committee even suggested that we were just out to ruin the sport of football. It was a difficult time for our research group because we knew that our research was solid and we refused to be intimidated and just walk away. The irony of this was that at the same time, my own 3 sons were playing Pop Warner football here locally in Chapel Hill. And so if I really wanted to paint an ugly picture of football, the game of football, would I have really allowed my own children to participate in the sport of football? All along, we were claiming, and we were, honestly, trying to identify risk factors for concussion and for some of the long-term risks of concussion or repeated concussions to help improve safety in the sport of football and all sports, all contact sports, and to help in many ways to preserve contact sports and the sport of football, to simply advocate for better research and for a safer game. But we had to find ways to advocate for the research we were conducting here. So what did we do next? We didn't go to battle with the NFL. That wasn't going to help. Instead, we surrounded ourselves with more good people, more researchers. We found people that we trusted to expand our research program and to eventually corroborate many of our findings through longitudinal studies, allowing us to find interventions to protect players from concussion and the long-term effects of concussion. The most rewarding aspects of this has been that our research had a trickle-down effect to youth sports, and there is now a heightened awareness about concussions in sport that are likely saving lives. And by the way, that old NFL committee is long gone. It was disbanded and does not exist any longer, and our research helped the NFL's research in this area by changing the kickoff rule back in 2011, which reduced concussions by 50% on that one play, the kickoff, over each of the next 5 years in the NFL, and then the NCAA adopted the changes that we recommended to the kickoff rule. And so while it took time and patience, and yes, it led to deferred gratification, and it also took leadership and the patience of new leadership within the NFL. At that time, Roger Goodell, who's become a friend and was a relatively new commissioner of the NFL at the time, he listened. He himself began to surround himself with good people, and I think his legacy at the end of the day will likely be improving safety in the NFL. So remember, advocate for yourself and what you believe in, surround yourself with good people, and when you know you're right and your integrity is intact, you will persevere. So, as you prepare to embark on the next chapter of your story, I'd like to share with you a quote from legal thriller author John Grisham, who is one of my favorites and is a friend and has a house just about 3 or 4 blocks down the road here, and he's a huge Tar Heel basketball fan, as you probably know, and you've seen him sitting courtside for many of our home games. Grisham advises writers not to start your first scene, quote unquote, until you know the final scene. If you know the final scene, he said, it's hard to get lost. And so, you've arrived at this destination in your academic journey by keeping your eyes on the outcome. But like any long journey, I'm sure that you've had to navigate a lot of detours, unexpected dead ends, and heavy traffic along the way. Among this group, for example, I know many of you changed your major along the way. Many of you, are graduating in 2 weeks from now from a department with a degree that you never imagined that you'd be graduating from. And that's what's special about a place like UNC Chapel Hill. It's allowed you to explore. That's one of the greatest things that I hope you'll walk away from recognizing, is that UNC Chapel Hill allowed you to explore and to learn, and that includes learning what destination you'd like to arrive at. Randy Posh, again, the author of The Last Lecture, he said, and I quote, You can always change your plan, but only if you have one. So set your plan up, but recognize that it's going to take some detours and some changes. So you can always change your plan, but only if you have one. If there's one thing that I would add to Grisham's quote, it's simply this: always stay curious. It'll help you identify your true north. Always stay curious. It'll help you identify your true north. What's your true north? Well, the true north is your orienting point. It's the guiding light that helps you stay on track. It's derived from your most deeply held beliefs that I hope you're beginning to develop. I hope integrity, as I've already said, is one of them. It helps you to think about what are your values, what are the guiding principles you're going to live by. It's your internal compass representing who you are at the deepest level. While I'm not going to stand here and tell you what I think your true north should be, because that's for you to decide, I do know that if you always stay curious and you always ask why, you'll be on the right track to lead lives of purpose and meaning. I was asked one time, what's your favorite word? And I said, why? And the interviewer said, well, because I want to know. I said, no, that's my word. It's why. And I think it's the most important word in the English dictionary. Because if you're always asking why or why not, you're going to remain curious, and you're going to challenge people. You're going to challenge the status quo. And so I encourage you to always be asking why or why not. Randy Pausch said, again, the last lecture, the questions are always more important than the answers. And I agree entirely. The questions are always more important than the answers. Our world needs engaged citizens and leaders who can address not only the grand challenges of today, but to be identifying the grand challenges of tomorrow. And that's what we're counting on you to do. That's what your Carolina education has prepared you to do. You are well equipped to view the world through different lenses, to identify the most pressing challenges, to process all the inputs of our diverse, interconnected world, and to exercise informed, critical reasoning to support democracy. We're talking a lot about democracy today, a lot more about it today than we were when you arrived here in the fall of 2020. And I hope you are leaving here better informed about how you are going to be an active participant in what we hope will be a thriving democracy that is under attack right now. In closing, I trust that the University of North Carolina Chapel Hill has trained you to do some great things and that you will make a difference. Trust that what your predecessors have done with their degree has added credibility to your degree. And now the ball's in your court. You have the responsibility to add continued credibility and, yes, integrity to your degree for those who will come after you. It's time to move forward and to explore. And I have one more quote, and it's short, but I hope you'll remember this. This is maybe the most important of them. In the words of Raymond Lindquist, he said, "Courage is the power to let go of the familiar." Courage is the power to let go of the familiar. Let go of Carolina and Chapel Hill for now. Not right now, you got 2 weeks to go. But trust that it will always be here for you. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm so proud of you and was so thankful to be invited back to give the last lecture tonight. I know you're going to go on to do great things. Congratulations, class of 2024, and go Heels. Thank you. You have final exams to start studying for soon. But Any questions, thoughts, reactions? What makes Carolina so special to me? Well, first of all, it's you. It's right here. This is an incredibly special class, as I've already said. We went through a lot together, but we persevered together. And I think it's the ability that, I think what's special is that our world-class faculty here prepare you to adapt to those challenges that you'll continue to experience. But it's about everything from the physical, the landscape of this beautiful campus, but the most important resource and piece of the campus, I think, are the people. That's the most important resource, and it's the faculty, it's the dedicated staff, it's the curious students. So it's the ability to incentivize that curiosity that I talked about that I think is so special. And something I've said over and over and over during my time at Carolina is that this is a passionately public institution, that everything we do is for the public good, and I hope you will leave here feeling that way, that you will remain committed to the public good and will always remain passionate about the public nature of your alma mater. So. What would I say to the Covenant Scholars here today? Well, first of all, thank you for saying yes to Carolina, because I know that you make Carolina the special place that it is. You're one of the important components of what makes it special. And I know that many of you had other places you could have gone, and you chose to come to Carolina. So thank you for being here. Thanks for persevering through those challenges and go out and make a difference. One of the best things during our capital campaign, where we raised over $5 billion for Carolina and for future Covenant Scholars, $1 billion of that $5 billion was for scholarship and aid, and many of those initial Covenant Scholars gave back in that campaign 16, 17 years after they benefited from that Covenant Scholarship. They wanted to pay it forward, and so I say thank you to those who were able to do that. Now the Covenant Scholars here will be able to do that in 10, 15, 20 years from now. So thank you. If there's some advice that I myself received during my last few weeks as a college student, that's asking me to think back a while. But is this not working?
I'm sure all of you here are protesters. I don't know if they're coming this way or not, but we're just going to be mindful of the fact that they're on campus and just be mindful of that. High five.
High five? No high five? Oh, come on. There we go. I think I have to think back to that. It's a great question, but I didn't have the opportunity to study abroad when I was in college. I wish I had, because I see the ways in which that opened up doors. Some of the experiential education opportunities. I didn't get a directed research experience, in my last year in college, which I wish I had had the opportunity to do. So, at any rate, I think those are things I try to instill in my own children, and I think in students that I had here at Carolina, to take advantage of those experiential education opportunities. So with that, I'm just thinking we may want to wrap this up. And I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. I'm proud of you. Class of 2024, go Heels. Thank you. Thank you.